Alright, this video is about how you set up the sermons in ProPresenter. This information is covered in the Sunday setup video that I made, but this video will focus specifically on the sermons. Alright, first thing you want to do is open up Safari and go to plantingcenter.com. Click Login. Up in the top left, click where it says Home, go down to Services. Up in the top bar, go to Media. Find the sermon for that series. So currently we are on the series called Time, and this Sunday will be part 2. So click onto that. That will give you this file here. When you hover over it, it will give you these options. Click the little arrow here, that's to download. Your downloads folder pops up like that when it is finished. You can close that out. Open your downloads folder. Click on the file you just downloaded. That will give you this window here. For the library, choose Sermons and then click OK. And that's going to import that sermon into ProPresenter. And you see it right here. So we are in the library sermons, Time Part 2. And then you can just take that and drag it to the playlist of Time Part 2. And then when you drag it in that way, it's going to automatically put it on the bottom. And so just drag that up right under the bumper video. Okay. Now here is the sermon slides. And so from here, what you need to do is just go through and make sure everything is going to look correct in all of the right places. All right, so this particular sermon in this series has a different bumper video than the sermon from last week. And so we need to get that corrected and updated in the system. So, which is a good opportunity to show you how to do that. Go ahead and minimize ProPresenter. Go down here to Documents. Click on ProPresenter. Click on Media, click on Assets. This is all of the files that have been imported into ProPresenter. They all kind of just hang out here, and we can move them around where we need to. The bumper video is located right down here. So just drag that, click it over onto the desktop. And when you do that, you'll notice it's changed that to a little question mark because it's no longer able to find it. All right, and so take this bumper video, bring it to temporary because that's where the series media is found, and then drop it into Time because that is the current series. Open this up, and then now you'll see over here, when you go to temporary, has all the different sections, and you click on Time, and it's going to show that bumper video here. Right click on it, choose Stop so it doesn't loop, and then take that, and we're going to drag it right up to the bumper video up here. Now, next week, assuming that the bumper video is back to the normal, we'll have to take the regular bumper video and drag it up and replace the bumper video here. All right, now that that is done, these first several slides you won't need. They are included each week in the package just in case something goes wrong and we need that media again, or as in the case this week, if there's a different bumper video than normal. But we no longer need those, so we can select them all, right click, and choose Delete. And now the very first slide in the sermon will be this logo slide. All right, now you might notice here this little yellow triangle. If you see that, go ahead and click on it and then change it to 1920 by 1080, and that will make that go away. All right, once you have everything deleted and the very first slide is the logo slide, the next thing you want to do is go over here to the right hand side of the screen to the macros. So if the macros aren't showing, click on this M here, and you're going to find the one that says sermon, and you're going to click and drag and place it on the very first slide. And so what that does is it cues the lights, and then it sets certain audience and stage looks. Now your job from here is to make sure that what we are outputting to our various places looks correct. So if you need to change your view here, right now it's set to main output. This is what's going to show on the projectors. But if you click that, go down to operator 2, now it's going to show you what is going out onto the lower thirds to the webcast. That is the audience look setting, and it's going to show you what is going onto the courtesy monitors hanging off the balcony there. That is what Pastor AJ sees while he is preaching. And we just want to make sure everything is looking correct. And so this first slide here, we'll see that is exactly what we want it to look like for Pastor AJ. That's how he likes it. But we don't want just a white line going out to lower thirds. So we need to adjust that audience look. So you right click on it, go to add action, audience look, and you choose no lower thirds. And that will delete this line. So when you click on it again, that line is deleted. And you go to the next slide. Now you notice here that this background, it's not covering the edges. And so that's something we would also want to correct. Now down here in our time file with all the different media, our background image is not there. And so let's correct that as well. So we're going to go ahead and minimize that. Go to Documents, go to ProPresenter, go to Media, go to Assets, and then we're going to find that. And so here it is here. It's called At the Movies background because we also use that background for the At the Movies series, it looks like. And so we'll just drag that out to the desktop, and then from the desktop bring it to the temporary, and then inside temporary bring it into time, and then that is going to allow it to show up here. Now to get it to go to the edges, you're going to right click on it and choose Scale to Fill, and that's going to fill it up completely. You'll notice that once we moved it out of that, all of those backgrounds are gone, and it just shows a little question mark. So now what we have to do is replace those backgrounds. And so you do that just simply by clicking and dragging it in. Now, it's going to remember, you don't have to put it on each one because it's going to remember the background from the previous one. So if you click on this slide and it has that background, well, when you click on that, it's going to keep the same background. If you go to the picture of the cat here and then click on that, you see it saves what was clicked last. So you don't have to put the background image on every slide. I'm going to just to make it more readable because each one has this little question mark here, and we want to correct that. So we're just going to go ahead and drag. All right, so we've got the backgrounds all finished. It fills up the whole image. It's looking good. And so from here, it's just a matter of going from slide to slide and making sure it looks correct everywhere. Click on that one. So that looks good, but you notice here nothing's coming out in lower thirds. And so we want to correct that. And so you right click on it, add action, audience look, because this audience is the audience at home that sees the lower thirds. And then you're going to choose lower third sermon. You click on it again, and it will show you what they're going to see at home. And that looks correct. Click on the next slide. This is a Bible verse. It is correct. So the Bible reference is on top, and then the actual passage is down below, and that is looking good. So we can go then to the next one. Now you see again, it's got that line. We don't want to send just a line through, and so we want to right click, add action, audience look, no lower thirds. Click it again, and then that's all set. That's good. And then now you see there's no lower thirds because we made that setting here, so we have to put another action on, audience look, or add action, audience look, lower third sermon. Click it again, and there it is. Now, another thing that you might want to correct in this, and this is just going to be a matter of personal preference. So you notice on here it's got the 3 dots. We can correct that and make it look better over on the lower thirds for the people at home. And so to do that, you just click onto, well, there's a couple different ways. You can right click on it and choose quick edit, and that's going to pull that up, and then you can just click in there and delete, and then close it out, and then click, and then make sure it looks correct everywhere. I'm not sure if the spacing is right on that, so what I'm going to do here is go up to edit, look at that slide. It says it's centered. All right, so yeah, that's looking good. Everything is centered up, spacing looks good. There, and then you just click onto the next one. That looks good. And really what you're doing here is you're just going down the line and making sure everything looks correct. So you notice here, you've got the reference up top. That is good. But then there's something wacky going on with the Bible verses. It doesn't all fit, and there's some weird breaks there. So we really got to fix that. So go up here to edit. So what causes those breaks is someone has hit the enter key to create the spacing for here, but it also creates breaks up here. And so to fix it, we have to get rid of those instances where enter was hit. And so you just go to each line, delete, put a space, delete, put a space, and we just want to make sure that it is spaces in between each rather than the enter key. Now that's kind of changed the spacing here, where now there's just one word on the bottom, and so if we want to correct that spacing, you change the size of the box. Another option, another thing you can play with is the different alignments. Currently it's set to center align. Sometimes with the scripture passages, I prefer this one here. And then you just kind of and so that still doesn't really look right. So we're going to go back to center. And then once you have that looking somewhat like you want it to, you just drag the text box to the center point. Another thing you can do on the text is if it's not showing up very well on your screen, your overhead screen, which you'll want to have the projectors on and kind of looking how it's going to look in-house while you do this. But another thing you can do is click on where it says stroke here and give it a nice good outline. All right, so I'm going to stretch it back out a little bit there, kind of give the spacing, make it look a little bit better with the spacing, and then drag it back here to the center. The black stroke lines, they don't really make much difference in the house looking on the projector, so we're going to take those off. But if this was a lighter background or something where that extra was needed, you just click stroke and you can make it as thick as you need to, or you can add a shadow, whatever you need to do to make it stand out and make it visible in the room. All right, and then we go back out here and we click Okay, so this one looks good right here. And then we just click onto the next slide. Now, for some reason, this one here, it's just super wonky. It's really big. I'm not sure why. It's just kind of perhaps a glitch in the system. Maybe this will be fixed in an update where it will stop doing that. But if you run into that, what you need to do is grab a slide that's working correctly, like this one here, and we're just going to duplicate it. So you can just copy, paste. So now you have two with 715, Roman 715, and then just go into edit and take that second Romans 715, and we're just going to turn it into this slide that was acting all goofy. So that's going to be Romans 7:24 and 25. And then you take this, you select it and hit Command X to cut, and then you go here and you paste. Actually, go here and paste and match style. And now if you remember, we kind of messed with the size of that text box. We're gonna have to stretch it out here till it looks good, and then that's good. Slide it over to the center, delete that one, go back to show. So 715 is looking good, and now 724 and 25 looks good. Click over to the next one. So again, it's all giant and wonky for some reason. Just gonna have to do the same thing. So we've already copied this one that works. We'll go here, paste it. When you paste it, always paste to the one right after. Go back up here to edit. Command X to cut. Go back here, click in that, right click, paste and match style. Go back down here, highlight, Command X again to cut, go into here, and paste and match style. Just plain paste might also work, but I'm using match style because I want it to match everything about the slide that was working, and so I choose match style. Make sure it's centered, delete that broken one, and then go back out here. And so we've got 715 works, 724.25 works. Now that one works. Now let's go to this one, and good, that one is not broken. So see, it looks good there. The same last word here and here. Hebrews 12:1, that looks good. That all looks good. All right, question number one. Now, you see here, we don't want it to look like that. That does not look very good, and so we're going to need to correct that. To correct that, just go into Edit, click on the text box, right-click, choose Copy, right-click again, choose Paste. It's going to give you two of the text boxes. Double-click in there, highlight, delete, so what you're doing is you are turning it into two text boxes, and you're getting rid of all the extra spaces. And so on the bottom text box, you just have the words. There's no spaces before or after. And then you drag that up to the center point. So the top of the text box is on that line there. And then, same with this one, you make sure you double click in there and make sure there's no spaces before or after. Because if there are, I'll show you, I'll just put a space there. When you go out here and you click back on this, it is going to make it look all jacked up. So that's still not right. But if you go here, delete. And then click. Alright, so for some reason it does this sometimes. It put the question number 1 on the bottom of the line and that on the top. So go back here to edit, and there's a couple things you can check to fix that. One is to make sure this text box is above that text box, which it is. We can make it smaller just to be sure. And then go back out here to see if that fixed it. And it did. So we just shrank it up and it fixed it. Now sometimes I've had to go so far as to change the words in the text boxes and just flip them around. So if we did all that in question 1, that words was still on the bottom like that, then you could just flip-flop them and then change the wording in each one. But that should fix it. So what I've done is I've shrank them both down. I've lowered this a little bit lower than the halfway point, and this one a little above the halfway point. And it is fixed. The next slide is a blank slide. I'm not sure exactly why that one is in there. I'm sure it will be evident in the manuscript that is provided. But either way, on a blank slide, we don't want that line, and so we're going to right-click on it, go to Add Action, Audience Look, No Lower Thirds, and then that will delete it. Then we got Wolverine here, and there's no line there, and that looks good there, and we keep going. There's still no lower third, so we're going to have to add that. So Add Action, Audience Look, Lower Third, Sermon. Click on it, and you see it's doing the same thing. It's got everything below the line. We need to fix that. Easiest way to fix it, since we know this one is working, is just to go here, right-click on it, choose Copy, and then go to Wolverine here, paste it. It's going to put it here. Click up here to edit, and then we just edit this slide here. Turn this to a number 2. Go to this one, right-click, highlight, Command X. Double click in there, highlight, and then paste and match style. You can delete that. Now you can see here it's kind of getting cut off because that text box from the previous one was so much smaller. So we want to stretch that out. And I'll go back out here, click on it, and that's looking good. Now it's kind of sitting a little bit low, so let's see if we can play with that without messing some things up. So we can raise question 1 up and raise that up to a little bit. Alright, so now it's sitting a little bit higher. It looks pretty good there. But you notice here, we still got an issue. So question 2 is on the top, just like it is supposed to be, but we've got that weird break here. And that's because there is the enter key or return key was used rather than the spacebar. So you just go to each one and make sure, just delete and put a space. And as long as the spacing and everything still looks good, and then look at that, we fixed it. Alright, go to the next one. Alright, so this says prize as the last word. This says I will not be. So all of the words are not fitting on this. And so what we want to do is right click on that, go to Edit Actions. And the reason we're choosing Edit instead of Add is because it already has a look on it. You can tell that by the little mustache guy. And if it's already got it, we got to change the one rather than add one. So you right click on it, go to Edit Actions, Audience Look, and then choose Lower Third Sermon More. All right, and then that will allow it to kind of get squeezed in there. If there's still too much text and it squeezes it where it's really tiny and hard to read, then you're going to need to break the verses up into multiple slides. If that ever happens, you'd want to make sure to let Pastor AJ know that you've made some changes like that to the slide so he can be prepared, because he's going to be reading typically the passage from the courtesy screens, and in his notes he understands it to be all one slide. And so you want to make sure he knows if you break it up into 2 slides, so that way he's prepared to make that adjustment. And then the very last slide, we've got that line there. And so we want to get rid of it. So you right click on it, add action, audience look, no lower thirds. And that's taken it away. So we ran into most of the issues that you would run into while prepping up the slides for the sermon. There are some cases where, and I'll make an example just to show you. There are some cases where all the content won't fit onto the slide. So every now and again, it will be like a list of things. Something like that. And there's no good way to clean it up so it fits down here on the lower thirds and where it still looks good on the screen in house. And so if you ever run into a situation like that where there's a list, you just right click on it, go to add action, audience look, or edit action. So if you ever get to and it's all grayed out, then just go down to edit action, audience look, no lower thirds, and that will just get rid of the lower thirds on that. And then what you'll want to do is let the person doing the webcast know that on that particular slide on the manuscript, there is not going to be a lower third, so that way they are prepared to switch to this screen here for the people at home, so they can still get the content. All right, and so those are more or less all of the scenarios you'll run into while prepping the slides. There might be some other perhaps strange things that I have not encountered or that I don't know about, but that is, for the most part, everything that you will encounter. And so you just go back and double check, make sure it has the macro, that's going to control the lights and everything, and then you just go slide by slide after you're done just to verify that everything is looking good in all the places. And it is set. Everything's good.